Okay, here's the deal. Not every video or idea that I have for a video can be a full feature-length video, right? I have a bunch of different scripts, just a ton of things that I want to talk about, that I have ideas for, that I've started scripts for, but I can't make like full videos about each and every one. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, for all the videos that I'm pretty sure I'm never going to actually make, I'm just going to do a little rant video like this, and I mean, you're going to have to deal with it because I need to get this shit off my chest and feel like it actually went somewhere. If these are cool enough ideas or big enough ideas, then I can make full-length videos, but I'm not going to do that right now because I don't really feel like it. But I really want to talk about some things. And, okay, so I've been playing for years. I've been playing Magic the Gathering. Since I was like 7 years old, I've been playing Magic the Gathering. And I've been playing it competitively since I was like 14, 15. It's kind of where it sort of ramped up for me. I started playing a lot of tournaments. Been to tons of events. I've traveled all over the country for it. Something I'm really passionate about, really love, is competitive Magic the Gathering, right? And there's a lot of games that do the similar thing, right? I've been to what's called DreamHack a couple of times. Magic used to be at these events. They're really not there anymore. But when I went to these events, what I noticed is, first of all, they're big. They're in these huge convention centers, and there's a ton of different games there, right? There's Magic the Gathering, but there's also other card games, and that's in its own little quiet wing when I would travel for these events. They also have giant stage level video game areas that range from, you know, like your Call of Duties and your Valorants and all of that to your fighting games, which can be, depending on the size of the fighting game, have a massive stage where people are watching it, and or they'll have them in their own little like conference room areas where it's not as big, but it's still a pretty big event, and they have their own TVs going on showing, or these giant screens showing what's going on in the event. I've also been to Combo Breaker, where, you know, there's these enormous screens showing the biggest events of what fighting games are going on. And these, I just gotta say, they're hype. They're so much fun. If you have the opportunity to go to something like this, you should really go, because the vibes are so different. They'll make you fall in love with gaming, video gaming, card gaming, whatever it is, really, all over again, just to be in a space with such a huge community, right? It's awesome. It feels super cool. But, the vibes are amazing, and people getting so excited and so interested in these things that we spend a lot of time just kind of sitting at a desk or sitting on the couch playing and watching and getting to experience so many people like cheering and getting really excited for video games in a way that often we are probably used to seeing sports get excited about is an incredible feeling, right? And that's really cool. But down, if we kind of shrink down into the perspective of what I know the most about, which is card games and card game events, I do feel like, and this has been a failure for a lot of companies in my opinion who try and move into this event competitive tournament style space, is to just focus solely on the most competitive, the most I beat you style of events. That's what I'm gonna, so events, I think, and here's my thought process. This is what I want to talk about. This is what I get off my chest. I think they're kind of boring. They don't do it right. I go to DreamHack, I see crowds cheering, getting super crazy hype for these matches of you know, Tekken or even Call of Duty or Valorant or whatever, and people being like really interested in seeing this stuff happen. I sat in the crowd of a Rocket League game like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, by the way. Rocket League at that point was already like, what, 14 years old, or at least 12 years old at that point, and it was very exciting. It was very cool to see people get so interested, and it is fun to watch that. Card games aren't really like that, right? Card games are not super fun and exciting to watch. And I'm not saying we need to make them more fun and exciting to watch at the expense of the people who love and want to play them. I don't mean that. I think we should make it more fun to watch for the people who already really like these games. And I think part of that is moving away from the stale versions of it. The thing about a first-person shooter game is it inherently is high energy. Is the level of energy in something like that is already inherently high. There's tension. You're waiting behind a corner. You don't know if they're there. You've used already your tactical ability, so you can't like peek or anything like that, and you just have to take the 50-50 or something like that, right? That can be really interesting and really tense and fun. A fighting game is similar. It's like, did they get the read? It's like, oh, I'm at one. I'm at a magic pixel, but I read their combo, get a full combo, and kill them, you know, the Daigo parry that we're all very, very familiar with. That inherently has that built into it. This isn't to say card games don't have exciting moments that can be built out of the way that their systems work, but I personally think that a lot of the conversations and ideas and focus is all about what people are kind of annoyed with, and so the only times that people get really excited to watch card games happen, and I'm talking about the communities who like card games. I'm not trying to bring in a bunch of people who wouldn't otherwise like card games. I'm not trying to turn it into a spectator sport. That's not going to work for card games, and that's okay. But people get excited when there's like a rogue deck that they've never seen before, or whenever it's the players that they like the most, and they see those. They're not excited to see the decks that they already know are the best decks, and see people pilot them to the best of their ability. The only people who care about that are extremely invested, high-level players who want to see the players who are even better than they are, do their thing. And I think you can appreciate that. But, alright, here's me getting to my point, because I think we need weirder competitive tournament formats. I am not arguing that we should replace normal competitive formats. Let's take Magic, for example. You've got your standard and modern formats that people play. These are, you know, rule sets for Magic that tell you what cards can be in your deck. And you just build a 60-card deck with a 15-card sideboard, play against an opponent every round. If you get enough wins, you move on, you can get to the top 8, win a bunch of money. That is fun, and I like those existing. I don't think those should go away. I'm not talking about that. But we don't have enough creativity built in, because some of the things that players on the larger group of players, right, the larger group of players of Magic, for them to want to be interested and invested, they need to see the stuff they want to see, which is the weird stuff. They want to see the underdog. They want to see the cool ideas for decks pop off. If we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, right, Yu-Gi-Oh, what people went nuts about, so much so that me as a Magic player, I heard about it, was that, like, that old 40-something-year-old dad who kept playing Mystic Mine until everyone realized how good it was. It broke the game, it got banned, and this guy won a tournament with you, or not won a tournament, but won a really high stakes round with Exodia, right?
All 5 pieces have been assembled. The legs, the arms, the head. Exodia obliterates. Unbelievable. Wow, the crowd goes insane.
Something that nobody plays. Like, I don't know, it was really cool. And it's a thing that's iconic to a lot of people, so people are really excited to see that, right? I want more, I want the games to build events that encourage that. Because going to events is so amazing. As I mentioned before, DreamHack, going to that event was amazing, and I got to experience the kind of community game magic, not pun intended, not Magic the Gathering, but like the whimsy and greatness of being allowed to experience other people's games. That's something that's awesome about it, is I go in, I get to watch people who love Rocket League play it, and I don't play that game, I don't know anything about it, but I get to see them do cool shit, and I'm excited to see it. If I go in and I'm watching someone play Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't really know much about Yu-Gi-Oh! It's really hard for me to get into it and be interested in it. And I'm not saying I can fully fix this problem, but I think we need more, better events that are more interesting and do more interesting things for the people who like those things. Let me give you a perspective. So most people who are watch my channel or interested in my channel, they are card game players. They are interested in card games. So we got Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, we got Magic players, we got Slay the Spire players, we got a lot of different types of people. But mostly, a lot of people who are here, they're here because of Magic and or card games in general for my channel. And that's who I want to talk to. I want to talk to those kinds of people. Like, focusing specifically on Magic, most players who play Magic the Gathering play what? Commander, right? That's the majority of people. And those people typically are not watching high-level competitive play at all. But these people are very interested in Magic. They talk about it all the time. They think about it all the time. They have about 200 decks built in Tapped Out, or whatever website they use to build their decks on. They have everything. They are invested. Yet they don't participate in the events. They don't play them. They don't watch them. They don't care about them. And I think, you know, there is a version of events that, like, are built for them. They have these Commander events that are really great for them, and that's cool and all. but I think you could get them interested in being the spectators of Magic. Or for other card games, you can do similar things. So how do we get these players interested in watching it? Well, make it more interesting and fun. Make it more cool. So I have a lot of ideas. And if I were able to run a tournament series, this is what I would do. You know what? Let Wizards of the Coast or whatever company make their series. Let them do their standard and their modern and have their competitive high-level play. And I think that's great because I play in that stuff. And I enjoy playing in that stuff. But we need more invitationals. Now, some of my Magic Zoomers who aren't really familiar with old school Magic and where it's been and where it's come from, there used to be a tournament series called Invitationals. And Invitationals, as it sounds, you had to be invited to. Once you were there, though, they only played weird formats. They did not play normal Magic formats like Modern or Standard. They played like... Oh shit, I can't remember. All right, I'm gonna look it up really quick. MTG Invitational formats, because they were so sick. All right, hear me out. This is so crazy. This is what I want to see more of in Magic and card games. I'm gonna preface this with, if you have been watching my videos or anything like that, you know my thing is taking games, particularly Magic, but any game, and adding weird rules to it, playing it in a different way. This is like a passion of mine. I'm a game designer. That's what I do, right? I am a game designer, and so I find it very fun. It's a nice way to flex my muscles of game design by taking an existing game and using new rules to completely recontextualize everything in it, right? That's what Dan Dan is, right? And every version of Dan Dan I've made is like that. You're taking Magic and suddenly you're doing something weird to it that completely recontextualizes what you have. Same thing with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universes Beyond cube. You're taking Magic's rules and putting them with the inspiration of Yu-Gi-Oh! To create something that's brand new and plays completely different, right? So, here are some of the formats that existed at previous Invitationals. In Invitationals for 1997, yeah, that's back where we're heading back there for Magic the Gathering. A lot of y'all weren't born yet. I was 1 year old. In 1997, there was Type 1.5. Type 1.5 was, I believe it was called, is that the one that was extended? Oh gosh. Type 1 is Legacy, Type 2 is Standard. I think it was extended, which is like Standard, but with more sets and more years in it. But it was Highlander. So you could only play one copy of each card. So you could, it was like Commander, but it was 60 card format, and you could not play multiple copies of any card. That's a simple one. Then they had what is it? Let me look at some more of these. Duplicate Sealed. All players receive the same card pool of bad reprints to construct their decks from. So if you don't know what Sealed is a form of Magic where you're given 6 packs. God, this is such a cool format. Sorry. You're given 6 packs of random, booster packs of cards, and you build a 40 card deck out of it and then play rounds of Magic with it. Right? Very fun format. Every pre-release, if you know what that is, it's when a set's new and it's going to come out, they run a tournament. I went to one for the Avatar set. It was great. So typically how that works is you get 6 randomized packs of Magic and you build a deck out of it, and then you play a couple of rounds against people to see who's good. This format, everyone's packs were the same. Like, the cards in them were exactly the same. So, you got your 6 packs, which is 90 cards, because each pack is 15 cards, so 15 times 6, that's 90 cards, right? And then everyone got the same 90 cards and had to figure out how to build the best deck out of those 90 cards. And they were all bad cards, too, apparently. Dude, that sounds amazing. Sorry, let me get into more of these. I'm gonna do my best. They had, Solomon Draft. Solomon Draft is a 2-player draft format instead of an 8-player draft format. So it's just one-on-one, you are drafting against one another. And then they had Backdraft, which is rather than building a deck out of the pool of cards you drafted and then give those drafted cards to your opponent for them to play with. It's crazy. This is the shit I'm talking about. You're trying to draft bad cards, so you give your opponent a bad pool of cards to work with. That sounds so awesome. We've got, let's see, let me look for some more stuff. We've got Extended New York Style, which is each deck had to contain at least 4 cards from The Dark, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, Homelands. So this is where, it had a bunch of sets here, where you had to build a deck that had at least 4 cards from each set in a certain a time period. That's interesting. That was back in 1998. in, let's see, what do we got? I'm going to scroll down a couple more and see. Oh, in 2002, they did Two-Headed Giant Draft, which is teams, where there's teams of 2 people, and you draft together, and you build 2 decks out of your draft pool, and then you play against another group of 2 players, but you are combined. It's called Two-Headed Giant because you share a life total of 30 life instead of 20 normal life, and you play your turns simultaneously. That format's really fun. Oh, wow. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Starting in 2000, they started doing these little auction formats where people would help decide what the format was going to be. So let me read these off for you, because what I'm saying is this shit needs to come back. We need more of this. I'm going to tell you some of the ideas I have too, but we need more weird, silly ideas that draw people in. They're like, oh my god, that sounds so wild. I want to play that. I want to try that. That's a weird way to play Magic. Let's throw Dan in there, right? We've got a format where players bid starting life totals and starting hand size for the decks which had won each World Championship and Pro Tour to date. So what it meant is Magic the Gathering has Pro Tours every year and World Championships every year, and they took the winning decks from each year, set them up, and each player would say, I want that deck right there, and I will pay 5 of my starting life total for each round and 1 of my starting hand size to get that deck. And then someone says, I'll pay 6 and 2 cards to get that deck. And they auction off all the decks that way. That's how, and then, you know, players trying to get the best decks, but the better decks cost you more, and so you have to risk more. So you might be starting with 3 life and a 4-card hand, and hoping you could beat the player who has 20 life and 7 cards, but they had a worse deck. That sounds awesome. Yes, there was one where all the decks were alphabetical themed. So they had an alphabet. It was like A deck, B deck, C deck. All the cards started with that letter. There was one where all deck submissions had to use the same artist. So if I'm building a deck... Oh, we did this in our area. We actually have this in our area. It's where everyone had to play... When you build your deck, you choose an artist from Magic's history, and all the cards in your deck have to be from that artist. These are crazy fun formats. They're so cool. And one of the things about these ideas is that you don't have to run them long term. So even if these formats are not balanced and there's something broken about them, and that when people figure out what the best deck is and like, oh, we should just play that every time, you just don't play the format again. You only play the format once or twice, and you keep coming up with new ones, so it's really hard for the format to get stale and for the meta to exist, because there can't be a meta if the format only exists for one event. And then when you get to the next year's version of this, it's a whole new event. So one of my dreams is to run an event series like this, where every time we run one of these events, it has a series of unique formats that you'll play, and then at that event, we announce the format for the next event. So you won't know what the formats are going to be unless you show up for one of the events. Then you'll know what the formats are going to be for the next event, and you have that much time to prepare. A meta is it's very difficult for a meta to evolve if you only have that much time to prepare, and then the format is done once everyone's played it. That's the goal. Because everyone's goal, and one of the most fun things about a brand new set or a brand new format, is that time where everyone's trying to figure it out. Everyone's learning and trying to figure out, what can we do? How can we break it? What's the coolest things? Maybe I can build a really fun deck. And there's all sorts of things going on. There's no meta that's established, so everyone's trying and playing and doing cool stuff. And if you have the formats changing like this every single series, every time you run this event, then there's no way to consolidate a meta. And everyone just gets to have a good time trying things, and everyone gets their moment in the sun where they broke the format, they figured it out, they're like, here's the actual best deck, and no one's tired of seeing that deck, right? If you think about the most recent history of Magic, everyone's tired of Vivi, then it got banned. Well, if Vivi was only a broken card for one tournament, and everyone's like, whoa, Vivi's so good, and then the next tournament we're playing a different format, so it's something else, you don't get tired of it because it's never the same thing. So here's some of my ideas that I would pitch, because I want to run an event like this. This is one of my dreams, is to be able to have the resources and the connections to run these kinds of events. One of them would be you draft which packs you get for your sealed. So in a normal draft, you open a pack, a booster pack, you choose a card and you pass it. But instead, how this one would work is there are packs set out on the table, and everyone goes in a circle choosing one pack at a time until everyone has 6. That's your sealed pool. You open those packs up. So that's pack draft. Another one that I had is called greedy draft, where you draft, everyone does a normal draft, except when you do a draft, you end up with 45 cards. And a deck in limited, like draft, only needs to have 23 cards and 17 lands typically, so you don't use all 45 cards. Except in greedy draft, you have to play all 45 cards you pick in your deck. You are required to play all 45 cards, and so you can add in basic lands to get up to a higher number, kind of balance things out, end up with, 60-ish card deck, something like that, but you have to play all 45 cards that you draft. That's one of the ideas that I have for a format. I would definitely run Artist Constructed at least once, where you build a deck and all of your cards in your deck have to be from the same artist. That would be really fun. One of the ones, okay, anyone here, if you're familiar with the Magic format, or the Magic set Conspiracy, one of my favorite sets of all time, they have these cards called Conspiracies that you drafted, and they would start in play and do something at the beginning of the game. When you revealed them, they changed the rules of the game from the beginning of the game. And I want to play a format that is Conspiracy Constructed, where you choose one conspiracy that you get to start with in play, and you build a deck built around that conspiracy. But you only run one tournament with this, because this mechanic is broken and does not work properly. It is imbalanced, but if you just do it once, people won't break it immediately. People will have some ideas, they'll talk to each other. You might see like 10, 20 people playing one of the decks, and then there's a bunch of other decks, right? But it'll be really fun and a novelty the first time you do it. Another thing that I want to talk about that could spruce up events in this way is not just playing cool formats. I have a big list of formats that I have been designing and coming up with, right? Custom Magic sets is one of the things you could do. You could literally play Dan as an event, and everyone shows up for the event. They've been practicing Dan the whole time, and then at the event, we play Dan a couple of rounds versus, and the winners win the tournament or whatever, and then we announce what the next format's going to be. And so the next time we run this event, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 6 months, maybe we only get to run them once a year, that's fine. We announce, okay, this next one is going to be Artist Constructed. So practice constructing your decks based on specific Magic the Gathering artists and bring them to the event. That kind of thing, right? That's how I would want to run it. But in addition to this, if I was running an event like this, I also want what I call boss fights or mini bosses. And this is like celebrity Magic players, right? So this could mean like people like Luis Scott Vargas or Jim Davis, people who are well known in the Magic community, have been around for a while, and you would invite them to these events to play in the event, but they get different rules. For example, might be able to break the rules of your tournament and do different things. And if you're playing in that event and you get matched up against Jim Davis, you get a bounty. If you can beat Jim Davis, who is a pro Magic player, or Luis Scott Vargas, who is a pro Magic player, at this funny, wacky event, you get prizes in addition, right? It doesn't matter what place you get. If you get, 61st place or whatever, but you beat Luis Scott Vargas, you get a prize just for beating him. That would be really fun. There's these bounties, you're like looking out for them. You're like, I hope I get paired against them, because if I beat them, I get the prize. You can also have what I would call like arch enemies, where in the tournament, they're people who are a part of our staff, right? If we're running the events, we have people from our staff who we would say, might be the faces of our company or of our event staff, who are charismatic, who we like to have do fun stuff, or cosplayers, have people who are dressed up as characters from Magic the Gathering or other games, depending on what we're doing. And when you play against them, they get to cheat. Right? They get to play by different rules and get to cheat, and if you can somehow still beat them, even though they're breaking the rules, they have a deck that's got cards that are illegal in it, they have custom cards in their deck that aren't technically allowed, but because they're one of these arch enemies, when you face them, they get to do that stuff, but if you can beat them, you also get like a cool special prize. And maybe they're carrying around like booster packs with them, or they're carrying around promos with them, or they're carrying around, if we have like a prize wall, they're carrying around tickets that they give you for beating them, in addition to being a part of the tournament. That would be really fun. And you could have these people inside of the event playing against people, or you could have these people off to the side as like little booths you could walk up to and go, here's my deck from the event, let's play. And then they give you prizes for beating them, right? Whatever way logistically makes more sense, but the idea is having all these fun little activities that you get to do, that you get to play against, that you get to have a good time with, that you get to do interesting things, right? And a big part of it would be having it be surprises, right? Obviously, you'll know the cosplayers are going to be the cosplayer people doing the archenemy stuff, but let's say we just have hidden people in there who are a part of our staff who get to play, or we invite, let's say, certain content creators to the event to play and do this. Maybe not everyone knows who they are, but then they play against them and suddenly they're breaking the rule, and you just have to give them a certain, like, I don't know, a card signed by our staff or signed by one of us, or something that says, yes, I'm allowed to break the rules, so that there's not, like, cheating going on. But also the event is supposed to have these kinds of fun, weird, wacky, surprising vibes. You want to have that stuff go on, because the idea would be to have something exciting that people want to watch. They want to find the surprises. Who figured out how to break the format? Who ends up beating Luis Scott Vargas? What are the weird twists that end up happening? Because in addition to it, just because people know the format doesn't mean you can't mess with things a little bit. They get there, and everyone has built their decks and plays the format, goes to their seats and does stuff, and then you kind of switch some stuff up a little bit. Or you make little Easter eggs or hide some things in there, right? Let's say, you know, we have a draft where people draft their cards and play with the weird, wacky rules that we're playing with, but then halfway through the tournament, we have a bonus round where we do something a little bit different. We let you switch up your decks. We let you go to a vendor and buy a card and put it in your deck or something like that, right? To support our vendors, but also to just be like, hey, here we go. All you have to do is you go to a vendor and have someone sign the card or sign off on the card that you bought, and then that can go in your deck now. And now you've broken your deck, and everyone's decks completely change. But it needs to be a surprise. So the events have a twist to them that you're not expecting, that we've hidden from you, right? That you're not always able to prepare for. I don't know. I know I just spent 30 minutes ranting about this stuff, but we just need more of this. Magic is such a cool game, and I think other card games should do this too. Magic seems to be the one that people are more interested in doing this kind of thing with, but in general, I see no reason we should be limiting ourselves to such, like, small thinking process. This could be expanded into all other types of gaming as well. I think hardcore focused competitive gaming is cool. Ones with metas and with ideas that where you have to understand the best stuff in the game. I'm fine with that. I think that stuff is great, but it really shouldn't be like the end all to our events when there's so many more people out there who can enjoy what exists in all the weird ways that it does exist. And I think that I think we need something like that, and I would love if one day I could do it where I could run that, but I know that that's complicated and there's a reason why some of this kind of stuff doesn't exist. But I'm just saying, you know, if you're interested, tell me in the comments, because this is something I want to do one day, is run a weird event series. Anyway, yeah, I'm probably going to make more videos where it's just me ranting about something in the future. Just things that I know that I won't be able to make full-length videos about that I just want to yap, okay? That's all. By the way, if you're still here, YouTube's got this new thing that's going on called Hype. There's a little button underneath the video. If it's a newer video, you can give hype to it, and it gives it points, especially if it's a smaller channel. So it'd be really cool if you just click that little hype button under there if you haven't already for this day. I know you get like a certain number of them, but I would really appreciate that. Anyway, peace.
Oh wait, I will be right back.
What do you mean right back?
What always saying that?